Summer routines live or die by how easy they are. And honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. Today, Jim and I welcome back in Lea B. Olsen. We're going to put a capper. Obviously, we'll talk some women's basketball with the Lynx, but we want to welcome you back and delve a little bit deeper. And also, I want to give you a lot of props for a 10-year anniversary that you have going for your company. So we're going to talk to Lea B. Olsen in length coming up.
That is what's known in the business as a good tease.
Thank you.
A 10-year anniversary we need to talk about here. We've had Lea on the show before, but this is the first time we've had her in studio, and we were lucky to be able to add Lea to our group of experts. She is now our WNBA, Lynx, women's basketball, and other stuff expert, so it's going to be a blast to talk to her. You'll be hearing her on this show periodically over the winter, and a lot next year when the Lynx start up again. This is again Dawn of Sports. Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9. We're coming from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We'd also like to thank Lexus Voizetta and Maplewood and Minnesota Masonic Charities.
Well, that was awesome, Jim, because when you said that we're having Lea on to talk not only basketball, but other things, I was so thrilled because Lea, from the day one I met you, and I've been here now 21 years. Wow. You have been a champion for women in a multitude of platforms in this town, obviously basketball being the one of them. So how has that been for you over the past, I would say, since I've been here? So I hate to say two centuries. Is that centuries?
Let's go decades.
Oh, thank you.
Make me feel better.
You see this coffee right here,
I'm
right?
old, but come on
It
now.
is a rainy Tuesday, and I need
Little
my
whiskey
caffeine.
in there?
Oh my gosh, I need the whiskey. Yeah. So, for the past 2 decades that I have witnessed you being such a staunch champion of men and women, but especially women and women of color, but any kind of person that wants to get into sports. You also 10 years. We kind of hinted off the top for Rethink the Win. You started in 2015. And it seems to have flown by. I remember when you were first starting that.
Yeah.
How has this journey been for you of late?
Well, first of all, thank you. Wonderful to be here with you two in person. It's exciting to have the opportunity to actually sit down face to face and chat. But well, first I'll just say this, that I'm an advocate to help all people who want to do what they're trying to get to. When I was coming into the sports business, I did not have role models. I didn't have people who were mentoring me, and I couldn't find any of those voices because it was quite a long time ago, and there wasn't a lot of women and different people who could do that at the time. And so that was just one of the things I always thought. If I ever made it, I would kind of look back and lift other people up as I go. So like I'm always open to like informational interviews with young people and trying to help people connect in and just kind of, I mean, what I would call just doing the right thing, but really, you know, lifting people back up. So that's kind of just been my philosophy. And with Rethink the Win is really a platform. And it's a platform that I use and I think about quite a bit because the world of sports just continues to change so much and ebbs and flows. And because of NIL and all of the different things we're seeing, in particular, we're seeing a real impact on young people and the expectations that we place on them now for sports and what they need to understand and the stressors that they're under. And so one of the big pieces for me is just kind of protecting our youngest athletes and understanding that they're not just little professional athletes. They are young people who are trying to find their way through sports. And so I think that platform will continue to grow with me because there's just so much need for it. And I'm a big proponent for putting young kids into sports, but I do know that it's not always healthy for them unless we provide them with healthy coaches, healthy experiences, environments that are positive, and people to help shepherd them through when you become an elite athlete, some of these newer things. So that's, to me, what Rethink the Win is really about.
And what I really love about it is, too, when I went back and I know how you got into basketball, but it wasn't until like you were maybe a junior in high school. And now kids start when they're like 7 or 8 or sometimes even earlier. And I have a brother of mine who is a teacher and a coach. And, I think for a while now has been saying it's really good for sometimes kids not to specialize so early. Like, enjoy being a child. And if you love it, do it. And if you want to play a second sport, that's great too, to kind of broaden their horizons. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, it's really difficult because I think we all feel that, but then to actually do it is a difficult thing because coaches don't always support it. Because if you're going to play different sports, that means that you're not going to be on the traveling side of the main sport that you're in. And so it causes a lot of issues. And I find sometimes only elite athletes have the opportunity to say to a coach, no, I am going to play a second or third sport because they are elite. But if you're just a regular athlete on the team, the coaches may not grant you that opportunity.
Right. Okay.
I think it's the one thing about outstate schools that they have the advantage still because they still need all their athletes to play all levels of sports, even though many of those kids are coming into the cities to play traveling ball as well. So things have changed, and I think you do have to move with how the society changes its sports. I think we just need to continue to support those athletes. And, like I've interviewed Joe Mauer about this, and he had said, I would never have wanted to play baseball all year long. Right? He would have never wanted to do that. So there's so many great athletes who never did that, but this is where we're at right now.
Right.
And so it's hard not to be a one sport athlete, although I do think it's much healthier to try to get some other things in.
I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. However, it was difficult even back then. And we're talking a while ago. It was difficult back then. You had to be able to say to one coach, I need extra something for so-and-so. And sometimes the seasons didn't really bleed over like they do now. Like when I had traveling soccer, it kind of bled into my track, which was synergistic for those two sports. It was great. One helped the other. But I can see, especially now, kids are asked to do so much more. They have to do the parades and they have to do the I don't know, my goddaughter just had to do a whole bunch of things for her volleyball where we have to go support the JV. They have to show up. They have to do so much more than I think athletes in the past were called to do. And so they need more help.
Yeah, they need more support with that. And I always say to parents, if you're trying to protect your kids, don't call the coach and ask about more playing time. Make sure that they're healthy, mentally, physically healthy, make sure that their bodies are holding up through this. Like those are the things that parents should really be keeping an eye on because that like down the line is some of the information that's coming out now is that we know that overuse injuries are having a real impact on our youngest athletes. And then this group of athletes coming out are the most stressed and depressed group of athletes that we've seen yet. So to just be really aware that protecting them from too much is really important because one thing we forget that professional athletes do all the time is they take time to relax and recover. And young athletes, we're always like, oh, they're young, they can do it. But no, they need to recover from the sport as well. So those would be some of the things that I would say to parents. But in talking about like the differences when I think about my years at the University of Minnesota, I mean, granted, we were not very good. So when I see these athletes, they are so much better. And that is partly because of the amount of time that they have committed to the sport. But I will say this, I feel like my experience at the U was more of a real college experience because we had springs basically off and then worked for the most part in summers without coaching. Right now, the athletes at the University of Minnesota, it's 24/7. They have like a couple weeks off in the summer, and that's really it. So their experience is focused on one thing, that's basketball and books, and in that order. So it's just a different way to do it, and that's okay that we've moved into that. I would just say that we have to remember to support them through that.
Yeah, I've had so many experience in my life. I've been covering pro sports for 36 years now. And I've just dealt with so many athletes, and they benefited from playing the second or third sport. They benefited from the skills. They benefited from a different set of hand-eye coordination challenges. Soccer players, great kinesthetic awareness where your feet are. Baseball players, you know the drill. I mean, I think it's beneficial.
Legit.
It also gives you a chance to rest a certain set of muscles and develop another set of muscles. It also refreshes your brain. I think it's great in many ways. But, the other thing is that what do we talk about in sports these days? What do we talk about around the Minnesota Twins? What are we talking about in this Vikings season? Injury after injury after injury. And part of that is bigger, stronger, faster athletes running into each other. But I really think a lot of it is I hear so many old school people, the modern athlete isn't tough. It's the opposite. The modern athlete is so dedicated and so driven and on such a schedule that they never recover. To go to my old school baseball background. In the old days, baseball players play 154 games, then they go work in a hardware store or take the winter off, and then they get themselves back in shape the next spring. Today's baseball player starts working like 2 weeks after their season's over, which is admirable, but it can't be good for your body long term.
It certainly can't. And I think you are starting to see those numbers play out. Isn't Tommy John's used to be something you would only see in the pros, right? Now you see that we see that in high school now. Yep. So those things are definitely true. And I think what's so critical is that, especially as we watch the WNBA, because the way that women's knees are shaped and the injuries that they are going to have as playing year round with the strength that they have at that level, I think it could really impact the game in a serious way. In that, like we saw this year, for various reasons, so many injuries to key players. And so I think the research needs to, especially for women in sports, has to be focused on preventative measures. What can we do that may be different than what the men are doing, because our bodies are shaped differently and we have different needs. But I do think that protect mode for the athletes is where we're going to need to go if we're going to continue to have them play 24/7 all year long and longer seasons. And the WNBA has a short season, but then the players are expected to play in other leagues. So that extends that. So you're never really sure how long they're going to actually be playing throughout the year. I think that, to me, needs to be the future for how do we protect those athletes.
I could probably just talk your ear off and want to pick your brain about how medical wise for women, first of all, just we're delving into whole different things now where they're saying women have to be treated totally different from men on many different things. And the surveys are coming from every man was done. So, and I'm not even talking when you get older, perimenopause, menopause. I'm talking about right now. They're saying now that cold plunges are not as beneficial for women as they are for men. They just figured the study was on men. This is what it did for your heart rate, but it doesn't really help women as much. So I think we're just starting to scratch the surface on all the medical stuff. And when I was talking to Taylor Heisey from The Frost, and she has, and I have one of these Aura rings, and I'm not promoting it, but you have one as well. The number one thing I learned, and I'm not a professional athlete, but she has learned, is the recovery. Like my ring will tell me, you had a lot yesterday, consider today being a restorative day. And I was like, what? Yes. And I'm thinking I would just kind of power through it, but then you feel kind of crappy. And she said, Team USA tracks us. She goes, and I'll get a phone call from the guy that works for Team USA and be like, you had amazing recovery yesterday. What did you do? And she's like, well, I don't know. I just kind of relaxed and ate a steak and, but that is so key. And so the more we find out more about women and how they can recuperate and recuperative sleep and just all that kind of things, athletes aren't lazy.
Right. That's what I always said. I've never met an athlete that doesn't want to win. So we don't have to really worry about that part of it. Athletes want to win. They want to be the best. So we can move from there. But I think that's really interesting because that was my same issue. It turned out that I was never having recovery. I didn't know that you needed time, even after just a basic workout, that next day your body still needs to recover. And so at night, I was too amped up, too much cortisol, and having a hard time sleeping. And so when I started working in the recovery, much better sleep. So those are the things we'll have to start looking at. And I'm excited because I don't know if you saw in the opinion page in the Star Tribune today, but it talked about Minnesota is, there was an opinion article from Wendy Blackshaw and Melvin Tennant talking about Minnesota is the place for women's sports.
Yes.
And I thought that was super interesting because it's basically saying all of the things that we do here, the Tucker Center, the way we bring sports in, the way we support women athletes. We are the kind of epicenter in the country for women's sports. And I think we can be that for the medical issues. We can be that for lifting athletes up, making sure their environments are safe. All of those things that we need to do to have the greatest athletes at all levels. I think we will kind of be a leader in that here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Can I take you back just a little bit and what made you, when you were a junior in high school, to be like, basketball? I think I'm going to do that. Did you play a little bit when you were little?
Being 6'1" when you're 12 years old is what happened, Don. It's like funny, yeah.
It's that obvious.
Yes, it really was that obvious, and I was super athletic and super competitive. But my parents, who, I always blame them, but it all worked out. So there's nothing to blame anymore. But they were kind of interesting hippie types. And they were like, we don't want you to go to a regular public school. We want you to go to a open program where you can learn at your own speed, all this stuff. So the school I was at did not have sports.
Okay.
So that's why it took me so long to get to it. But walking around Minneapolis, people would continuously stop me and be like, where do you play? Where do you play? So finally, my brothers were like, you should probably just go to a school that has sports. And so that's kind of how that happened and why it happened so late. And so I'm glad I was actually born in an era where I could actually jump in and still have time to learn it because it was like a quick study. I had to figure it all out. So I played 1 year high school ball, 2 years at community college, then over to the University of Minnesota. So it was just quick study, quick everything. But as you said, most kids now starting at 5, I wouldn't have that opportunity probably in this day and age.
Let's hear more from Lea about her life and everything that's going on. We'll eventually ask her where she thinks the WNBA is headed right now in this
that's a
very volatile fall. First, let's take care of the businesses that take care of this business. Let's start with Aquarius Home Services. Thanks also to Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
And thanks to a great Minnesota company, it helps so many people, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
It's funny when you said, 6'1", that's what happened to me. I used to get things saying, we want you to be part of our swimming program. Everyone thought I have big shoulders. I literally, even when I was under 100 pounds, my shoulders came out. I was like a linebacker. And people were like, you're a swimmer. I'm like, Mom, are they looking in our backyard?
Yeah.
We had a pool in our backyard, but I've never in my life been on a swim team. So it's just funny how people just look at you and say you're one thing.
Well, and it turns out I actually probably should have been a volleyball player because when I got to the University of Minnesota, I ran into the volleyball coach at the time, who was Steph Schluter, and she looked at me and she was like, you are actually built for volleyball. And when I think about my skill set, it probably actually would have been better in volleyball, but I'm very glad that basketball was my track because that really has been my passion.
Yeah, it has. And I know that Jim had alluded to it when we were talking about the WNBA. You've seen so many different iterations of it. You've seen so many, shall we say, genres of female athletes, right? Because now you say they'll start when they're 5 or 6, but you used to see different types of athletes kind of make their name. Even from Nancy Lieberman when I was growing up, and then Cheryl Swoops and Candace Parker. I covered her in high school just to see how she's transformed. There's just been so many great athletes to transform the game that I think. Just saying in the past couple of years, women's basketball has exploded. I think you and Marnie Gilner were talking about that specific thing not too long ago. And it's funny because it's it shouldn't have taken so long when you can say names like that before that.
Yeah, and I think that maybe the question is, maybe it really wasn't long. It just felt long, because if you think about the WNBA coming into existence in 1997, Minnesota Lynx coming to Minnesota in 1999, that's really not that long of a time to see how much the league has changed. Like it's pretty remarkable. And so, but I think the thing is like when you're in it and you're working in it, there were definitely moments in those years where there weren't people in the buildings and some of the teams were shutting their doors down. And, like for me, I remember when the Houston Comets, when they shut down, it was really crazy because they were like the best team,
So good, yeah.
And so you're starting to think, is this going to work? And so there was those question marks, but so I actually think the process has actually moved pretty quickly. It just felt like a long time because we've been in it and watching it, and you want so much more for these athletes. And now that it has arrived and the platform was right and ready and it's here, it's really amazing seeing all the things that are coming out right now in women's sports around G leagues and new programs and unrivaled. And I mean, it is blowing up in every direction. So this definitely is the moment.
Yeah, when you see growing pains like officiating,
Yes.
And I don't want to say bullying in terms of physicality, but things have to get under control. If you kind of look at it, that's kind of a growing pains in every successful sport.
Absolutely. I mean, every sport has to deal with it, in particular when the athletes get faster and bigger and stronger. And the WNBA has reached that early. And I think if we look at some of the levels of officiating where the officials are at, it's not enough. And I think the process to fix is pretty easy. It's like start a program where they're paid enough that they want to pick and select officiating in the WNBA, and then allow them to come through the college level and then get to a WNBA G League of sorts, and then come through, because I just think there just hasn't been a reason for the best officiating to leave the NBA to come over to the WNBA and make way less than you would make.
Right.
So there was just no reason. So of course you end up with a pool that isn't the best officials out there.
Yeah. What's amazing is that you feel like the well-established billion-dollar sports leagues don't have enough good officials. So it kind of makes sense that WNBA, has that part of its business lagging behind a little bit. That being said, we've already talked to you about the end of the Lynx schedule and what happened with Cheryl and everything else. Let's go really big picture here. WNBA has CBA negotiations. We have Fisa Collier and Brianna Stewart and other star players involved in Unrivaled. There's discontent with the current commissioner. Is this growing pains, or is this a real imminent nuclear problem?
I definitely think it's growing pains. I think like other leagues, you've seen battles, you've seen lockouts, you've seen strikes, and you've seen them recover from that. I think the timing for the WNBA could be a little precarious because it is so popular and it's on the up and up. And so if there is a shutdown, I think it'll frustrate people, but I also feel like, unlike other leagues, I think the fan base is really on the side of the players. And a lot of times with like the NFL or the NBA, I think the fan base has been on the side of the ownership group. So I do think they could probably tolerate. So if it's October 31st that they have to have their CBA negotiations, I'm guessing that's not going to happen. And so there would be some type of shutdown, and then they're in the off season. So I think they can stomach it. But ultimately, to me, the best thing for the game is to be ready to roll in early May to get everyone back with their eyes on the WNBA again. And I do think that the owners all understand how important that's going to be to have that up and running. And that commissioner situation, I'll be very curious to see how they're going to figure that out. It's like, I feel like she's not going to make it through the process, but is it before the negotiations or after? And so that would obviously be up to the ownership group.
Yeah, it seems like a huge groundswell. And, there was going to be a sea change there. That's how I see
That's
it.
how I saw it too. I don't have insight on it, just like everyone else, what I've read in the paper. But
I would say too that having covered so many strikes, shutdowns of different walkouts, whatever you want to call them, no sport is ever ruined by them. People panic.
Mm-hmm.
People say they'll never go to another game. I'm done with them. The players are all greedy. You'll hear all the same proclamations you always hear. And guess what? Sometimes sports come back better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wouldn't. This doesn't feel like good timing for the WNBA because of the popularity. I don't think they'd lose their fan base at all.
And maybe for the players, it's the best time,
Right.
because of
that,
because of this, right? When are you going to ask for things more so than when you have everyone behind you? You know, when fans want to see more games, they do. And I know everyone says, why do you compare salaries? And I said, I don't compare salaries. People, just fans are saying, oh, she's only making this. I said, well, they play a lot less games in the NBA, but let's shrink it down. Like if the NBA played here, let's get something to really compare apples and oranges to. Right now, you can't. You just can't.
You have to just look at their salaries based on what the WNBA is making,
Exactly.
and they want their fair share of that piece.
And that's what the story is. And people are conflating it to be something totally different. Like, oh, she wants to have, Steph Curry's. No, that's not.
That's
they're
not
not
the
asking for
situation.
equal pay of what the NBA guys are. They want their share of what is going on here. And I think that has to be clear for a lot of the, I would say, I don't know, come what may fans. Not like, I think the real fans understand that.
Sure.
They should be getting a similar percentage of revenues.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough one, I think.
Yeah. And somebody, I can't remember who it was. I think the New York Times quoted an award-winning economist in the last year doing a story about how this all should look.
Mm-hmm.
They said, Nafisa Collier should probably be making, given her value to the league revenues, everything else, she should probably be making like $15 million a year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from an economist, not a sports fan, not an owner, not somebody who has
He's just looking at the money.
But that would be a game changer. You start, if the stars in the WNBA started getting paid $10 to $15 million, even if that lags behind the men's, all of a sudden now, not only does that prove highly motivating to the players as a group and players as individual, it also says something about your league. I still remember when Tiger Woods was starting to dominate in the PGA Tour, and the PGA Tour leadership, which doesn't always make great decisions, made a great decision, said, you know what? Our purses should be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? Somebody tuning in on Sunday afternoon and these guys are playing for $10 million instead of $1 million. That makes it feel bigger. It raises the stakes. It makes it all more legitimate. That's the way the WNBA should be looking. They should want people tuning into the games to go, that's Nafisa Collier. She makes like $15 million a year.
Right.
Right.
It's kind of like when the commissioner tried to give that little tiny tiny trophy that nobody wanted because it was so little and tiny.
God.
You got to give a big trophy, folks.
Oh my goodness. Also, and we brought up officiating with that. If your players are that valuable, you have to, the ownership and everyone else, you want to protect them. You don't want someone getting hurt on a stupid non-call or anything like that. You need to curtail it. And I know every league is different, but I know in the NFL, in order to, like, let's say they're going to the playoffs, they take a referee crew that has been graded the whole season long. And then it's so the best of the best are the ones that go even just to the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl. When I found out and looked at the credentials for the guys that were in the semifinals for the WNBA, I was like, are you men and women, not just guys? But I was like, are you? For me, who I thought I was educated on what was going on with them, I was shocked.
Well, and I think that's the frustration of what we saw on Nafisa Collier's basis for her exit interview speech was this has been going on for a while and no one's been listening. And when I say no one, I mean the league. And so this complaint has it just became so common, especially this year, but in the past few years, you just hear it over and over again from everybody. And I think it was really landing on deaf ears. And it kind of like hit this tipping point here in the semifinals game with the Lynx.
If you were a player right now and you were on the Lynx team,
that'd be fun.
How would you feel about being on a team that kind of now has been kind of, I'll say, ripped off 2 years in a row, with a coach that is as decorated as they come, and with players around you? Would you be angry? How would you be right now? I mean, you're with them. Are they angry? Are they disappointed? Are they disenfranchised? I mean, what is it?
I think, yeah, probably all of those things from what I see. But in the end, and you hear players say this all the time, they can control what they can control.
Mm-hmm.
And so it calls for the movement that they are doing now, hence the Nafisa Collier speech. And so, yeah, I mean, the frustration, because the window for championships is so small, and you get an opportunity with this group. I mean, we may have just lost the window for this group that we have in, right? So you don't get, like, you start thinking you get a lot of these opportunities and you really don't. And so I think that part is just like heartbreaking, frustrating, angers you. But then, these are professional athletes. This is how they make their living. And so you got to keep it moving. And that is what they will all do. But yes, you could feel the frustration and the pain.
Do you think, I think we all have the feeling that this group is going to be broken up inevitably. Do you think Nafisa Collier wants to come back and play for the Lynx? Is that a priority for her, or would it be convenience or priority? I guess is the way to put it.
I would think it would be a priority for her because, coaching has gotten better in the WNBA, but like this year, there was some coaches in this league that were not good. And so to take a chance and have, go somewhere that doesn't have good coaching, I think is really risky when you're sitting under the best coach in the WNBA. So I would think she's settled here. She's comfortable here. Her husband's good here. Her daughter, she's got all those things. And then in a way, like, she strikes me as like a Maya Moore, where just like one place in her career is all she wants to be at. And so that's my view of it for her. And I certainly hope that that's what she wants to do, because she's one of the most unique players and leaders, I think, in all of sports.
I agree. Even in the past couple of years, we'd be in our sports department at Fox 9, and we'd all just be watching, and she would turn some unbelievable play. And then one of our photographers go, "Have you ever noticed she doesn't even sweat? Like, look at her. She looks like she's fresh out of a photo shoot, and she just powered her way through. And no expression, right? Calm, but not an expression like I'm stoic, just kind of like peaceful, calm."
Yeah,
I'm like,
you can't speed her up.
She's like a machine, but in the best of complimentary ways. It's incredible.
I remember watching her in her rookie season, and in practice, Coach Reeve would be showing her something she wanted her to do, like a post-up move, and she would be teaching it to her. And then you would actually see her do it in the game just right away. And her ability to take the teaching and turn it into the post move was unbelievable. And it's just she's super smart, but then like foundationally so strong that she can just turn words into movements and make it seem just very effortless.
Yes.
Very unique skill.
And like we had spoken earlier, the effortlessness sometimes is mistaken.
Yes.
Right? And that's why maybe she's passed over for MVP.
Yeah.
It's because she does it so poised.
She's not demonstrative. She's not in your face. She's not, she can block your shot, but she's just going to do it nicely and then keep it moving, And so it feels a little bit different to people sometimes, where I think they don't fear her until she kind of just slices you up on the court where they can't do anything. But as she's coming into your arena, you're not fearing her. And I think that's the part. That's why I kind of love this leadership piece for her, because now, like, the world sees, like, she is to be feared because she's a fearless person. It's just how she's kind of moving through the world right now.
But I love it too, because I like this line, and I always try to keep in the back of my mind, lions don't need to roar. And that reminds me of Fee.
Yep.
Like, she'll do her job, and she, like you said, death by a million cuts, right? But she doesn't need to roar in your face, because she knows her worth, and that's just been wonderful to see. And then to see her kind of death by a million cuts with her I don't even want to call it complaint. I'll say her speech about how things should change. And then also when she was speaking with Kamala Harris at that rally or that day of, was it inconvenient conversation or something like that? It was amazing. And I said, I love that because she's still herself. She's not all of a saying, okay, now I have this platform and I'm going to be someone different. Now people are listening like, oh, that's where her strength is.
Yeah. She's just very unique individual. And for the Lynx to have had, I think, like a Maya Moore and then to have her, it's pretty lucky. That's like you just super rare individuals. And there's something about, I mean, there's totally different players and totally different people, but there's something about them too, how she's followed Maya Moore that's just very intriguing to me. There's, that's just makes them both uniquely incredible people, but in very different ways.
Is there something about the Lynx organization in specific that has allowed them to open up that path, perhaps even more so? Or you think they would have anyway?
I do think they would be superstars anywhere, but I will say what I do think one of Cheryl Reeves' probably greatest attributes is I think she gets players to play better. And I think you really saw that with this last group that she was coaching, just regular players that like Bridget Carlton or even Alana Smith, who on other teams, I just don't think people noticed her very much. And she wasn't a spectacular player. She played at a different level here in Minnesota. Bridget Carlton played at another level. Courtney Williams has played her best basketball under Cheryl Reeve. And so some coaches can get you to do things differently than you have done in your career. And I think people believe so much in what Coach Reeves says that they'll do whatever it is to kind of change that and change their game. And so I kind of think that's one of her great superpowers.
And also the environment to let you be a leader on topics outside of basketball and allowing you to have your voice and still represent the Lynx with it. That not many organizations will give you that leeway.
Yeah, that's a great point. She's big on that.
Yeah.
She's going to support them. Whatever their cause is, wherever needed, she's going to be backing them up.
I also think that the historical similarities between Fee and Maya Moore are fascinating, especially because they're like the opposite kind of players.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl would always say she'd tell Maya Moore what to do coming out of the huddle. Maya would do the opposite and make it work. Like Maya would go the wrong way, and then she hit an off-bounds three-pointer. It was like, way to run there. That play worked. Yeah, let's do that again. Where Fee's the opposite. Fee, okay, do this, and finish with a reverse, right-handed layup, and she'd do exactly that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and I always remember because like one thing that's interesting to me about watching Coach Reeve with this generation of players is that they don't love being yelled at, really. Mm-hmm. This generation doesn't. And Coach Reeve is an old school yeller, and she gets away with it still, right? And Maya, she used to like yell at Maya a lot. And I was always like, can you yell at Maya more like that? And Maya just would never change her face, and she just did her thing and didn't impact her at all. But then I've heard Coach Reeve talk about it, like if you can yell at your greatest player, Maya Moore, then the rest of the team's got to come along, And so those things are interesting to me to kind of see how it works with coaches and players and how they respond.
Well, and I've also seen maybe a different side of Cheryl in the past couple of years, and especially so with someone like Courtney Williams, where she says, Courtney can razz me and I allow her. She's funny. And she said, so I think there's a different side to me that a lot of people don't know. My teammates, I mean, my team knows, but, and so she goes, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's brought a little softness to Cheryl a little bit.
Yeah. You'd think after all these years, she might just kind of take it down a notch.
Ain't gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Okay. Keep it moving. Yeah.
Lea, I know that this is going to be the first of many that we're going to check in with you and just some quick topics that people don't even know about you. You're so into fashion. You are a motivational speaker. You're a model. You're gorgeous. You're a mom of outstanding kids. You and your husband have a great long-standing relationship. I mean, there's just so much about you, and we're just scratching the surface. But so outside of basketball and broadcasting and your family, what
Yes.
would be your greatest love? Is it fashion? Is it something maybe we don't know that we can talk down the line?
Ooh, greatest love. I do like some fashion stuff, but I'm not sure it would be my greatest love. I can tell you if I can just throw in this little thing that I'm working on.
Absolutely.
I have been asked by the Minnesota Historical Society to write a book on women's basketball in the state of Minnesota. And
Wow.
Yes.
I wasn't really sure exactly kind of like how to do that first. So we talked about this for many, many, many months. And so basically they want it to come through my eyes of being like a player, a broadcaster, working in sports, Rethink the Win, all of the things. And working on the state high school basketball tournaments and all the great players who have come through there and kind of sharing it through my life. And so that is my current project that I'm working on right now that I'm super excited about. And fingers crossed I can get this book out of me.
Oh, I can't wait. I
Fantastic.
can't wait. Well, that's what we call a deep tease.
Yes.
Right.
We'll talk more about that in the future.
All right.
That's awesome. Thanks for having
Well,
me on.
Lea, thank you so much. It's always so much fun. Yes. And I look forward to hearing more about it. I know you probably can't give it a lot away, but we'll do little droppings until.
Perfect. That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
All right, Lea, thanks.